Hello and welcome to Me to We's Fundraising Workshop number 2, Creating a Successful Fundraising Plan. Last time, we covered Introduction to Phase 1, the Needs Assessment Phase. Here, we set our targets and goals, we worked to get to know our fundraising friends and allies, we got comfortable with and determining what our why is, and we got to know our trip inside and out. Today, we're going to cover step 2, which is creating your fundraising plan. Okay, let's get started. So today we're going to cover phase 2, creating a comprehensive fundraising plan. To do this, we're going to go over the following steps. Step 1, select fundraising ideas that work for our goal. Step 2, build our networks and resources to execute our ideas. Step 3, build credibility and transparency into our fundraising plan. Ready to go? Okay. The first step in building your fundraising plan is choosing what type of events or initiatives you're going to use to reach your goal. Choosing the right fundraising event or activity is important to making sure you're successful. To help you think about your plan, we're going to go through activities that have worked well in the past for fundraisers, questions to ask yourself about your fundraising events, customizing your events to meet your specific needs, and incorporating your friends and allies into your fundraising plan. So before we get going, I'd like everyone to pause the webinar and take a few minutes for an activity to write down some of your fundraising ideas that you've come up with so far. While you're going through this, think of what types of fundraising activities have you seen work before? What fundraising activities have you personally been involved in the past? And go ahead and just write down what other fundraising ideas you have. Be creative. Think of anything that's on your mind. It's a great time to start doing some brainstorming. Great. So now let's talk about some other successful previous fundraisers that have worked for others in the past. Personal savings. Consider your own savings. Can you contribute to the trip in any way? Will you be receiving gifts in the next few months or year? Consider birthdays or events where you might be receiving a gift. Can you ask for it early? If so, how much do you think you can count on? And how much in advance can you collect? Aeroplan miles. Do you, your family, or friends collect Aeroplan miles? Do they have extra Aeroplan miles that they don't know what to do with? If so, you can use them towards your Me to We trip. You're able to redeem your Aeroplan miles for $500 or $100 or 1,000 Me to We trip gift cards. Online fundraising pages. Your online fundraising page is a great resource. You can use this to email everyone you know about your fundraising goals. You can create business cards and posters promoting your fundraising page. Advertise your fundraising page link at other fundraising events like bake sales, spaghetti nights, or canteens. You can also place it on tags on products you're selling, like handmade headbands. Sponsorship letter writing campaigns. Write a draft letter that becomes your template for all of your letters. Do your sponsorship letter campaign right away and let everyone in your network know that you're fundraising for your trip or experience. Share these letters with your friends and family and even local businesses seeking their sponsorship. You can continue to do these often and on an ongoing basis. Remember, there's lots of stores and businesses around your local neighborhood. So why not reach out to a local restaurant, a local hair salon, a local clothing store, and see if they're able to donate towards your campaign. No, Me to We offers a full line of fundraising products that feature our Me to We artisans jewelry and Me to We greeting cards. You're able to buy these pieces, sell them at a markup, and all the profits from your sales can go towards your fundraising. For example, this This means if you buy a 5-pack of Rafiki bracelets for $50, sell each Rafiki for $20, this would give you a profit of $10 on each sale. These are great to sell to people around the holidays and birthdays for gifts. You can also buy different party bag packs and use them in events like auctions. Some questions to start thinking about while you're planning your fundraising events are: what kind of event would you like to run? A concert, a bake sale, a coffee house, a dance show, a movie night? What about running your event simultaneously with other events? For example, if there's a basketball game going on, can you run a bake sale or a beverage stand at the same time? Think about going to the dollar store and getting paper bags and filling them with popcorn. You can sell these at a game or an event, and it's a great, cheap, and cheerful idea to raise some money. Donations don't always have to be financial. If people can't give money, would they be willing to give other donations, like materials? You can use these at an auction or a raffle. What about a competition? What about a tournament of some kind, or a competition between clubs or classes at school? Also, what about offering your services? Are you willing to offer services for money? Can you do odd jobs like cut grass, rake? How about shovel snow in the winter? Can you fix things around people's homes? Can you paint? Can you organize someone's garage? How about pet sitting, babysitting? Can you go grocery shopping? How about running young kids' birthday parties? Be someone's personal assistant. What about going to your parents' or family's places of work and offering your time as a service? Filing, tidying, housekeeping. Go to a local business and see if they need help with something like cleaning or organizing their back room or inventory. What about washing cars? These are all things that you can think of when you're planning your fundraising events. The possibilities are endless. Hey, do you have any other skills or talents where you might be able to sell something that you produce? Are you crafty? Do you like to knit? Do you like to bake? How about making jewelry? Are you willing to tutor younger kids on subject in school that you're really good at? How about coaching kids on the free throw and basketball? Maybe someone's willing to pay you a few bucks for your efforts, talents, and skills. I like to bake, so for my fundraising, I use the holidays to take orders for Christmas cake that I sold and wrapped with a festive bow. I also tagged each Christmas cake with a homemade tag that includes my fundraising page link so that they could log on and donate to my campaign and from the comfort of their own home. Either way, making your fundraising campaign personal is really effective. So think about it. What are you good at? One of the most valuable resources you may have may be right there around you. Think about the network of people that you have to help you fundraise. Ask yourself, do I have a network of people who can help me reach my fundraising goals? Can my parents, relatives, friends, or family extend my letter writing campaign? Can they put a jar out in their kitchen at work for donations? Can they forward my online fundraising page or letter around to people in their places of work? Can they sell my artisans' fundraising products at work? Can they help me run my fundraising events or donate supplies to my fundraising events? Who is in your support network? Can they help you advertise? Can they help you sell your products? This is really key because you can also be two places at once when you use somebody else to help with your fundraising. Maybe they can just contribute their time in a volunteer capacity, and they can help you run your major events. This is all very helpful. Now, go back to that list that you made earlier, the one with all your fundraising ideas. We're going to go through it and help you select the fundraising activities that are best suited to your fundraising goal, the time you have to fundraise, and the people that you have to help reach your goal. We're going to update your list of fundraising ideas with some of the new ideas that you have. Step 2. Step 2 is all about effort and energy versus time and profit. We want you to work smart instead of working hard. We know you're the type of person in your class who works harder than most people. Why do we know this? Because you're a person who wants to travel overseas this summer to make a difference and physically impact people that you're helping. You're pretty unique. We also know that you have limited time and resources to hit your fundraising goals. We know you're on a tight timeline to get your money into MeetAWee to secure your trip before you leave. And because we know you work so hard, and because you have limited time and resources, we want you to strategically think about working smart instead of working hard. You'll have to work hard at all your fundraising plans, but if you're working on the right plans, then your hard work is more likely to pay off in meeting your fundraising goals sooner. Brains, not brawn, everyone. To quote a MeetAWee trip focus group of youth travelers from this summer, one participant said, "You can have all the greatest ideas in the world, but if you're not going to get enough money for them, don't bother." You need to spend time and energy on the right fundraising activities. It was just one example of a group of experienced fundraisers who shared their opinions. But as you can see, there's a lot of value into considering effort compared with financial gain that you'll make. As you develop your fundraising plan, talk to a mentor, a teacher, a parent, or your fundraising coach about the idea of working smart versus working hard, and effort versus financial gain. The trick is, in some cases, the effort is worth it, but there are a lot of factors that go into considering a fundraising activity's success. Your support network can help you prioritize your fundraising ideas. Start with the fundraising ideas that are best suited to your fundraising needs. In our experience, fundraising needs consist of 3 factors. How much money you have to fundraise. So, if you have a larger fundraising goal, you may need to consider larger events or initiatives. If your fundraising goal is smaller, you might be able to pick away at it with smaller fundraising campaigns. Another question to consider is how much time you have to fundraise. If you're the type of person who's involved in student council and you play soccer and you have dance class and you have piano lessons, maybe planning large-scale events is not the right idea for you. Also, think about how many people you have to support you and help you out. If you're new to a city and you don't have any friends or networks, maybe it's not the best idea for you to plan a large-scale event like a dance or concert because you don't have a lot of people who might attend. It might be best for you to think of planning something in a high-trafficked area like a bake sale or selling an item. That way you can get to know your community a little bit better first. Maybe you have your parents to help you support. Maybe you have a large family. Maybe you have a large family and some friends at school. Maybe you have a large family, a large group of friends at school, and a community that has your back. These are all things to think about when you consider your support network. Remember the fundraising calculator you completed in our last fundraising workbook? It's time to bring that back out and develop your fundraising plan based on your fundraising needs. How much do you need to fundraise? $0 to $500? Maybe it's $500 to $1,000. A lot of people have to fundraise the mid-range, about $1,000 to $2,500. But even more, fundraisers that travel with MeetAWee have to fundraise $2,500 or above, almost the entire amount of their trip. Also, let's stop and determine how much time you have to fundraise. Do you have a month? Less than a month? Maybe you have about 3 months. If you started early, maybe you have 3 or more months to fundraise for your fundraising goal. Whatever you decide, you'll have to factor in how much time you have to execute your fundraising plans. Based on your answers to the questions we just talked about, let's go back to our list of fundraising ideas that you made in the first activity. Let's consider them based on effort versus time versus financial gain ranking that we've been talking about. Now, take a moment and pause the workshop and rewrite your list, ranking the activities starting with number 1 being the best activity that suits your fundraising needs, and so on. Some ways to measure and track the effort and financial benefit could be counting how much money you made from each fundraising activity. Compare it to other activities that you've run or that you've seen run in the past. How many hours did you spend on this activity? Did it take a long time? Was it really laborious? Or was it relatively simple to execute? Lastly, how much money did you invest in the activity up front? Was it worth it? Did you have to buy a lot of items in order to execute your fundraising event? These are all things to consider in finding what activity works best for you. Step 3 in your fundraising plan should be building a network of prospects, donors, and supporters. To do this, we're going to talk about what is a prospect? What is a donor? What is a supporter? We're going to talk about these 3 words and decipher between the 3. We're also going to talk about incorporating your network into your fundraising at the outset. Prospects. The dictionary definition of a prospect is a potential or likely candidate. So ask yourself, who could be a potential candidate for giving me money, time, or other kinds of value donations that will help towards my fundraising goal? When we're thinking about prospects, we want to consider 3 different degrees. A first degree prospect, let's call everybody you know personally, like a family member or friends, your first degree prospects. A second degree prospect, how about let's call everyone that you are associated with in some way a second degree prospect. These could be people like a teammate, a classmate, people that you've met through your part-time job, teachers, coaches, parents of your friends. How about neighbors? Maybe people you went to camp with last summer, friends from junior high school who you see sometimes, the family you babysit for, the list goes on. Third degree prospects. Think sponsorship. Think no direct ties, but loose ties, because they're in your community, or maybe they're an organization that gives out grants to youth doing volunteer work. How about your local Lions chapter or 4-H club that has grants you could apply for? Or what about businesses in your area who you patron? What about a faith-based organization that you could offer a speech to, or workshop, a presentation before or after your volunteer experience to share with your community members? A lot of faith-based organizations have money set aside for their community to do service work. So let's keep in mind when a prospect gives you a donation in some kind, financial, material, object, virtual object, in kind, they now become a donor to you. So let's move on. Now, a donor is someone who's contributed to you thus far, or it's someone who's said that they will contribute towards your fundraising goal. If you have any previous fundraising experience, it's someone who's contributed to you in your other fundraising efforts. Would they be interested in supporting your efforts for this experience as well? Are there people who may not have money but may have other things that they can donate? And could you turn these donations into money in some other way? An example of this is someone who donates a t-shirt or a gift certificate or something that you can put into a gift basket that you can raffle off. And you can sell tickets for these raffles. Another example is someone who donates Aeroplan points that can be put towards your Me to Eat. A supporter. Do you have people who would be willing to fundraise on your behalf? Think of these people as your fundraising supporters or fundraising support network. If you can get the right people into place, they can help you by fundraising on your behalf, and you don't have to be in two places at once. Your supporters are most likely going to be your first and second degree prospects or past donors. But consider other supporters. Maybe there's an opportunity to support someone or a group of people fundraising for their initiatives, and then they can in turn support you. Think about your parents, guardians, aunts and uncles, cousins, grandparents, siblings, friends, sports teammates, club members, youth group buddies, faith-based groups, etc. Can they help you do some of your fundraising activities? If you're selling raffle tickets for something, can you enlist in their support to help you sell the tickets? If you're offering your services like cleaning up your garage or repair jobs in the neighborhood or painting or being an executive assistant, can they help pass along your information to their networks so you can offer your services to more of a larger network? If you're using the online Me to We Trip fundraising page, after you've sent out your first appeal email to your first and second degree prospects, could you then ask any of them to pass your appeal to their networks? In these examples, having supporters volunteer access to their networks and facilitate introductions for you is extremely valuable. So in the last step here, we're going to cover a very important topic, building credibility and transparency with our fundraising. We're going to talk about what is credibility and how it relates to fundraising. We're going to talk about how we build this credibility. And we're going to talk about creating a follow-up and progress update strategy so we can have transparency in our fundraising strategies. So what is credibility anyways? Credibility is the ability to do what you're saying you're going to do. When you have credibility, people trust you. This is obviously very important in fundraising. Transparency. When you keep people updated about your progress, that's called being transparent. Inevitably, transparency helps build your credibility. What if the person, people, or organization you're reaching out to doesn't know anything about you? Good question. That means they don't have much trust in you yet. Therefore, it's your job to ensure they know that you do have the ability to say what you're going to do. So transparency and credibility is a very important thing to build into your fundraising. So what are some ways that you can build credibility with your prospects, donors, and support networks? Well, to start, be ready to talk about you. Who are you? Why should people believe you? This is a great time to introduce your why to your supporters and potential prospects and donors. This is something that we talked about in the last workbook. Help people understand that you're a person of your words, likely proven by your past actions. So be ready to talk about things that you've done that show your credibility, and let your actions speak louder than your words. Be ready to talk about your previous experiences. Can you give examples of other times you've fundraised before and that money went to where you said it was going to be going? Talk about your extracurricular activities as well. Make sure you provide an update on how much you've already fundraised. Example, let people know that you've raised $1,500 so far and that your goal is to raise $4,000. Bring people into the fold by keeping them up to date with your fundraising goals and telling them how your fundraising is going so far. Be ready to talk about Me to We and Free the Children, and about what your trip is all about. If you can clearly articulate the organization you're traveling with, how both organizations work together, and what you'll be doing on a trip, you can build credibility to yourself as well for knowing your information really well. It's hard to be an expert on an experience you haven't had yet, but if you're ready to answer questions and share details about the experience you want to go on, people will see how serious you are, and that builds credibility. Okay, so now you have some credibility. How do you gain more through the duration of your fundraising? Creating a follow-up and progress update strategy for your fundraising plan. The first thing you need to do is collect all the prospects, donors, and supporters' contact information, including email, phone numbers, and addresses. So this is everyone you have a conversation about your fundraising efforts. They could be added to your list. Keeping in contact with people is how you build a community of supporters. Secondary information you might want to collect could be what you asked people for, how they supported you with, or how much money, how much time, etc. The types of conversations you had, their interests, feedback they gave you, or things like that. Having this information can be helpful when you go to personalize your thank you cards, or if you want to make another ask of some kind in the future. This could be like your next Me to We trip. Think about how you want to follow up with all of your prospects, donors, and supporters. A follow-up strategy is key, and here are some best practices. Ensure you have timely follow-up within 24 to 48 hours of your contact after a donation is given or after you return home. This is important in having transparency and credibility built into your fundraising. Multiple progress reports throughout your fundraising. This is important and will ensure transparency throughout your fundraising. Be creative, whether it's a Facebook post, an e-blast, or a handwritten letter. You can send out progress reports throughout your fundraising anyway. Update your donors on the amount saved each month and call it a transparency report. That way they can follow along. As always, express genuine gratitude when you receive a donation. You can't thank someone enough when they contribute to something so important as your experience abroad. Honesty in sharing. It's always important to be honest, and if you ever have any failures, share this with your donors, prospects, and supporters. You might find that they're willing to increase their support or support you in other ways, so make sure you're honest at all times. It's very important. Now take some time to think about how you're going to honor your donors. Consider how you will do your donor follow-ups. What kind of thank yous and updates will you provide on your progress? Also, consider any specific follow-up or thank yous that you need to plan for on your trip, or when you return home. Here are some ideas. Public recognition. Posting on Facebook or giving a company a great review after they've supported you is a great way to spread the word. Personalized thank you cards or gifts. You can send these in the mail, or you can always hand deliver them. That gives a lovely extra touch. Leading an education workshop. For example, we've seen other young people return from their trip experiences and follow through with the organizations who sponsored them for their trip by leading an educational workshop about your trip experience and a workshop about fundraising for your trip to other young people. Doing a presentation about international development or sustainable change with that organization. You can also do a presentation in your class about education and water, other social issues that you've learned along the way. Presenting a slideshow or telling stories about your experience over lunch, or volunteering a set number of hours at a business and organization after you return. Now let's go back and go through our rough fundraising plan and the notes that we've taken throughout this workshop. Let's consider the important takeaways. We've critically looked at all the activities that you've chosen. Decide, are they a right fit for your time, budget, and personality? We've worked through and prioritized your fundraising activities. We've decided on how we're going to build credibility and transparency with our donors and supporters. We've started making a list of our prospects, donors, and supporters and figuring out how we're going to incorporate them into our fundraising plan. We hope you feel equipped now putting your comprehensive fundraising plan into action. But here are some more steps to success. Go back and read Phase 2 workbook and make sure you complete all of the activities inside. That's 1, 2, and 3 workbook activities. The first one is selecting your fundraising ideas. We went over this together. The second one was identifying important resources you need to execute your fundraisers. The third was identifying our fundraising network and building a follow-up strategy. If you have any questions about today's webinar, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is up on the screen and I'm always happy to help any way that I can. Thank you all very much for joining us for MeToWe's Fundraising Workshop number 2. We'll see you next time.